Good evening, everybody. So let us start our lecture this evening. Today is October 27th, right? Okay. So today is October 27th. So according to our schedule, so this week we will cover. Oh, so it says file operation, but I'm a lecture behind. So exception handling. Last week I was sick, so I could not cover exception handling. So let us quickly cover exception handling, and then we will go. The test was on last week, so we missed a lecture, and also I was sick. So how was your test? Test two.
Wasn't too bad.
Was not bad. Okay. Okay.
I know you probably haven't started grading it yet, but when exactly are you going to start?
So actually I'll see. So I will download the test. I need several hours to download from D2L, then process it to make it a PDF file for Gradescope for several hours.
Okay.
So maybe hopefully by this week I will complete the uploading, import, export, import, and then by the weekend we will start getting. We usually have 2 weeks, so I think hopefully by 2 weeks you will see your date. Okay, so I noticed that there was a mistake in one of the test question, but that was incorrect. Okay, so exception handling. So that our test 3 will be your final test, right? Next test will be your final exam. Okay. So test 3 will be actually cumulative. So everything we will cover, we will get almost similar questions, test question. Okay. If you did well in test 1 and test 2, you should do well in test 3. But there are some new stuffs. But one thing that if you did any mistake in test 1 and test 2, cover those. Okay. Please look back those and make sure you understand those. So actually, for this course, the main part, the heart of this course is object-oriented programming principles. You know how to declare a class, and then if you know how to create object, use static modifiers, then inheritance, polymorphism, abstract class interface. These are the main foundation of this course, many elements, okay? And then I think we have half of this course that covered those. Exception handling. Yes, I believe there is a new slide for exception handling. By the way, I sent you a link of my previous module of exception handling. Did you have a chance to look at to watch that video? Okay, if you did not have a chance, please watch that exception handling videos from my lectures from my previous semester. Okay, so what we discussed, an exception. What is an exception? An exception like an accident. Okay, it happens during our program execution time. Okay, not in compile time. Okay, so like an accident, it happens in our daily life, but like sometimes unconsciously and unknowingly, right? If you know that if an accident will happen, then that is not an accident, right? So you can take precaution ahead of time, but sometimes still we be aware and then we stay safe, but still accident happens, right? Same thing, exception happen in our program. Actually, that is one thing that an exception happen only in program runtime, not in compile time. So if it is happen in compile time, we say that an error. If we find an error in compile time, we know that how to fix it, and we fix it ahead of time. Until we fix an error, our program will not be compiled or will not be run, right? Executed. But sometimes our programs compiles and start executing, and it happens that an exception. So how to execute? How to handle an exception? There are two different methods actually to handle an exception using try-catch block. The try block is used to bundle or to wrap up the statements that may occur an exception. That we guess that this statement may cause an exception. For instance, if there is a division operation, right? So we should be aware that at any point we may have denominator 0. Denominator value may be 0, right? It may happen. So in that case, we should block or enclose that block using within try statement. And a catch statement is followed by a try statement. First, you have at least one try statement, and then you will have one or more catch statements. Without any try statement, you cannot have any catch statement. Catch statement cannot be independent. Okay, this catch statement is dependent to the try block. For one try block, there might have multiple catch statements. Okay. For instance, if you think that one kind of exception happened, then use one try block, one catch block. For another kind of exception, use another catch block. Okay, like this. And then finally, finally block also it follows the try block. Okay, and finally block it is the statement that must be executed even an exception happens or does not happen. No matter an exception happens or does not happen, we use a finally block. The all statements that must needed to be executed, we put in the finally block. Like the statement in order to close a database. If we handle a database program or we open a file, right? So after the operation, we need to, after some operations, we need to close the database or file. Okay, or network connection. If you work in a network connection, you will, so when you take like advanced like network course, you will see that you can create network object, node object, and then after an operation, you may need to close the connection. That operations are put in the finally block. Okay, so there are two types of exception. It's called checked exception and unchecked exceptions. So by their name, it is assumed that checked exception are checked during compile time. Unchecked exception are not checked in compile time. So let me say, so in this program, you see that this program, it has some input operation, two input operations, and these here in this statement, it has a division operation. So even sometimes knowingly or unknowingly, it may happen that you may get a value, 0 value for num2. If you get a 0 value from num2 for somehow, then the result will be undetermined. Something by 0 equal to undetermined, right? So in that case, an exception will happen here. So what do you want? If an exception happen, if an accident happen, what do you want? We want to do two things. First thing, we want to avoid the exception or accident. If we cannot avoid that, right? What do? We bypass, right? If while we're driving in a freeway or in a roadside, I'm sorry, my mic is not working. Mic is not working. Is there anyone? No, battery is done. So please come forward and then it's not working. Is battery is gone. Oh, okay. So what we should do? We should enclose this statement, at least this statement, within the try block. Okay, so that then in that case the program will be like. So in the try block we will put that exception. And what will happen if we use a try block to enclose that statement? So then even an exception happen in your program, it will not crash the program, entire program. Okay, so what do you want to say? Sometime if an exception happen, we may give a warning message, or we may skip that statement. Something, whatever you want to do, that statement will be given over here, so that our program does not crash. So every day in our, when we use a lot of applications, right? Especially for in our handheld mobile devices, right? So you see that some programs sometimes it crashes. It crashes, it closes automatically. It restarts automatically due to an unhandled exception. Okay, so if that exception is handled, then it will give you an error message. What do you want? It will tell you that, oh, this is the problem. Okay. But sometimes if that exception is not handled in the program, then what it will do, it will restart the program. Sometime, but nowadays it does not happen because the operating systems are too robust. So compared to the application, operating system is more strengthened. So it does not restart the computer. Very rare case you will see that whenever you are running a program, it will crash your application, your system. It will like restart your program. But like whenever 30 years ago, I remember only 30 years ago, 25 years ago, when we program, okay, then operating systems, I use mainly Windows. So for Windows, I started with Windows DOS, then Windows 95. Okay, so those operating systems are not too much robust. Sometimes when you try to install programs, sometimes operating system crashed and then it restarted the computer. Okay, but you may not notice that kind of experience nowadays. Okay, and the finally block, why it is used? Again, no matter whether an exception happens or does not happen, if you want to execute some statements for sure, then that statement you will put in the finally block. Okay, so this is one way to handle exception. There is another way, I will tell you. Okay, so okay, so I see that there is an exception hierarchy in Java and so in C#. Almost similar, but the concept is that in Java and C# and modern programming languages, there are some built-in classes with some methods in order to handle exceptions. Okay, so you see that for Java, the object class is, we know that object class is the top level, the greatest toppest level class, right? Built-in class, and then after that there is a throwable class. After that, on the left side error and right side exceptions, and then you see that errors are again divided into some subclasses, right? So you see that, and on the right side you see the exceptions. One of some exception is that illegal argument exception, then index out of bound exception. You may experience this exception a lot for if you want to do like database operation or array operation. We face this index out of bound exception. That means we do not have any element, but we try to go to the last element, more element index. For instance, if for an array of size 10, if you want to access the 10 element, it should be 9, right, index. But if you want to access the index 10, that does not exist, right? So there, in that case, it will give you an index out of bound exception. So in case if we write a code in our program that happen, what will happen? So if we handle our exception, then it will give you an error message, but your program will not crash. Okay, and another exception is that file not found exception. Sometimes we want to open a file. That file does not exist. If that file does not exist, right? So that kind of, so then it will give that exception, file not found, or even the file exists. But if what happens if that file is occupied or opened by another program, another application, so or another methods, that method has not released the file yet. So then a file cannot be opened using two like different application. In that case, the compiler will say that, oh, that file does not exist. Okay, so these are the actually built-in another see the arithmetic operation and number format exception. These are the built-in exception, more common exceptions. But in addition to these, despite of these common exceptions, sometimes we may need to create our own exceptions. These are not sufficient. For instance, there are many built-in methods, library functions, right? Built-in methods, but those methods do not, even there are many hundreds and thousands built-in methods, those methods do not fulfill our need. So sometimes we may need to make our own method, right? So similarly, we may need to create our own exception. For instance, like custom exceptions, like for instance, whenever you open an app, maybe a web-based app or mobile-based app, sometimes it gave an exception error message that has custom error message. Maybe the company name or company logo comes with, right? Or something special that we understand that this message is coming from that company or that. So in order to do that, like we can create an exception that is with our own method, our own message. That is called built-in exceptions. Okay, so this is a class is for.
I can't see the screen.
You cannot see the screen. You cannot see my screen.
Yeah, I can't see it.
No, I can't see it either, Professor.
Yeah, I don't think the screen is on right now.
I think someone. Do you see now?
No.
Nope.
Do you see now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So like C++, C# or Java or most programming languages, they have their own exception library, built-in library. Okay, so so as I discussed, what happens when an exception happens? The flow is that it takes to the cache block and it caches the exception and it handles as needed. So okay, that as I told you, there may have multiple cache blocks. So sometime we may assign that if my exception is this type, it handle like this way. Exception is this type, then handle this way. If exception is this type, handle this way. And let me see. I discussed the finally block. For instance, this one. So in the one try block. Okay, and there will be multiple cache blocks. So one thing is that there cannot have any code within a try and catch block. In the past, I have experienced that some students, they wrote some codes inside here. So illegal, okay? You cannot have anything here between a try and a catch block. All of your codes will be either in try block or catch block. So if you put any code over here, this any statement over here, that will be orphan statement. That will make an error in the program. Okay, like this is more likely as a if, else if, we use else if, right, for multiple condition checking. So if you say else if, so you cannot have any orphan code between two else if, something like this. Okay, so for instance, you see that one thing, remember that. So this is an exception, child class of the exception, and you will create an object e1, for instance, and if maybe this will be another class, and you will create another object. You cannot give same name for this object, and you cannot give same name for this object. You should give different object. You see that? So these are the like one thing is that we cannot put catch 1, catch 2, catch 3. All are same catch. Okay, there is no keyword like catch 1, catch 2, catch 3. So in the past, I saw that some students they wrote like catch 1 and catch 2 and catch 3. Some people try to like this. Okay, catch 1. So we give a question to write multiple with multiple catch statement. They wrote like this. Don't do this mistake, please. Okay, I think if you practice at least few programs, okay, then how the try and catch block works, then you should understand that you cannot have catch 1, catch 2, or catch 3. All will be catch. Okay, so there is no order. Order is not a matter. Okay, order doesn't matter. So whenever you can put like this one is here, you can put next this one over there. You can put this one here. Okay, you can put this one here. It's okay. As long as they are here, it will work. So the people who are online, can you hear me? Do you understand what I wanted to tell you here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my message was that some student in the previous semester, I saw that they put catch 1, catch 2, and catch 3. Okay, because they thought multiple catch statement that means, so that is not correct. Okay, so please do not do that. Okay, I discussed that every statement must be enclosed within a statement within the try block or catch block. Okay. Okay. And there is another second way to handle an exception is called throwing an exception. Throwing an exception, like either we can put an exception within try catch block. We can handle an exception using try catch block, or we can throw the exception. Okay, like this is not a good example. Let me like this. The method that may create an exception, we will put throws. Use throws. Okay, there are two similar keyword. One is called throw, another is called throws. Okay, you see, I would put T lowercase. Okay. So throws is used only in the method header. So if you use throws, then you do not need to use try catch block. So what it will do, the program will throws that exception. But what is the limitation of throwing an exception? You see that throwing an exception, that means throws exception, that means you are not handling that exception. Okay, just bypassing the exception. Sometime, okay, so like let me give an example. May God does not do it for us. Sometimes if an accident happen, while I'm driving a car, okay, what should I do? Should I leave my car and go away? I should not do that, right? I don't. But if he is think that is, some people may do that if think that this is their definitely their fault or major fault, or the car is total, is going to be total, right? Then in that case they may think about, okay, let me leave the car and let me escape it, right? Escape himself. But usually people do not do that. Like people, what they do, if an accident happens, they call police or emergency, and they get help and they try to resolve the issue, right? So that is way is that using try catch statement. But if you escape, okay, so that means if you throw an exception, you do not have any way to resolve it, right? If an accident happens and if you escape, if you run away, then you don't have any way to resolve it, right? So similarly, similar thing, you can remember that, okay? Okay, and then throws, that what is do? It throws an exception. Exception is a class. We showed you in a minute ago. Here you see the exception class, and also in C# it has exception class, and we call the constructor here. So we call the exception constructor and we pass this message that I'm throwing this. Okay, let me see. Okay, so okay, this is C# code and this is Java code, similar thing. Let me see. Throwing exception in Java, we use throws keyword and throw. Okay, one thing is, remember what is the difference between throws and throw. Throw is used to throw an exception object. So this will create an object, right, within new, right? We are not giving name of that object. Okay, just we are throwing that object, and throws is used to extend a method in the header line. That is an interview question. What is the difference between throw and throws?
Will you always have a throw if you have a throws?
Yes. If you have it, that's a good question. Okay, so if you have throws exception, then what you will do? What do you want to throw? That what happens that you will throw. Let me see that how many slides are there. I have some good examples of exception handling and interview. Okay, then another important question for the interview is that what is the difference between final, finally, and finalize? Okay, this is an important interview question. So final is a keyword that is used to make a variable or method unchangeable, like constant. Okay, we use static in Java. We use static, like static final int x equal to 5. That during program execution time we cannot change the value. We declare using final keyword. We declare a constant. Okay, and finally is a keyword that is used to complete, used with try catch block. If I have some statement that must want to be executed, that we put that statement in finally block. Okay, and then finalize. Okay, finalize, that means if you want a class not to be inherited or a method not to be inherited, then we make that method finalize. That means it cannot be inherited. Okay, or it cannot be distributed. Okay, let me see. So this is a way to design your own exception types in Java. Like this, we have to create a class. This is my exception class. So like this, we are creating a new exception class, and then okay. So one thing is that in order to create an exception class, all your class must extend or inherit the exception class, built-in exception class. Okay, so then exception class, then after within exception class, then you will create your own method, and within the own method, what do you at this point maybe is a good time. Anyone knows here what is the meaning of super? Why do we use super?
To call the parent class constructor?
Yes, thank you. So super is used to call
Yeah.
the parent class constructor. So which one is my parent class here?
Insufficient funds. Sorry. Exception.
Yes. Insufficient fund exception. This is my new class. This is my child class, and this is my parent class. So by telling super that whatever message I'm passing over here, that message will go to the exception class. Something like this, but not exactly like something new. New exception message, something like this. Exactly, not exactly like this, something like this. Okay, but don't I'm writing this here because that we found in the code. You see that this one? Okay, so this is exception class, right? So then we are only calling this constructor, and we are passing this message, this string, right? And here we are using new object, so creating a new object with this message. Similarly, we are creating here, we are creating an object of exception class, and we are passing that message. This message is string type, right? Here. Okay, it means super means like something exception here and message. You understand? Okay, and in C#, same thing is used with base. C# we use base in order to call the parent class is here is exception class in order to pass this message to that exception class. Okay, this is another interview question. So if you go to for an interview, you must be asked question from this chapter, exception handling. Okay, so there are two types of exceptions. Java actually distinguishes two types of exception: unchecked exceptions and checked exceptions. Okay, so unchecked exceptions are not checked during compile time. Okay, and checked exception are checked during compile time by the compiler, mostly checked by compile time. So if you give only one difference between checked and unchecked exception, I like you to remember this. It's easy. But the name, actually the name they refer to that. Unchecked means these are checked in exception time, and unchecked means in compile time it is not checked. Okay, so if you want to remember only one difference between checked exception and unchecked exception, I like you to remember this because this is easy to remember. Okay, unchecked exceptions are not checked during compile time, but checked exceptions are checked during compile time. Okay, now let us understand what is meant by check and what is meant by unchecked. So unchecked exceptions are inherited from either error or runtime exceptions. I would I would take this slide. Oh, here it's already there. Okay, so here you see that unchecked exceptions are inherited from either error or runtime exceptions. So which side is error? This side is error side. So all of these are unchecked exception. Okay, so either error class or runtime exceptions. Okay, because so which one is runtime exception? You see that this one, this runtime exception, like this part. So on the actually the left side, leftmost part are called unchecked exception, and the right side part are the checked exception. Okay, so then unchecked exceptions are not handled by compile time. For instance, divide by 0. During a program compilation, it will not understand, it will not know whether there will be a denominator with 0 value, right? Only the denominator or numerator value will be passed during program execution time, right? So in execution time, we may have a 0 denominator value. In that case, so compiler does not know that there will be a 0 value. Okay, so that is divided by 0 or divide by 0 is an unchecked exception. So I think we got 2 and 3. Okay, and another example is that so unchecked exceptions are not required by try and catch block. What is the reason? Because in the compile time, it will not make any issue, right? In the compile time, it will not make an issue. Okay, so even are not mandatory to use try and catch block to handle this exception, but checked exception must be put inside try and catch block. But maybe this one is difficult to remember. I would give this at the end. Yeah, and that okay. But if you remember only one difference for the interview, I like you to remember the yellow highlighted one. Okay, at least you can say one example. It is easy to remember. Okay, so I have some programs. So these programs are from my book code. So let me see how many programs are those here. Okay, so here so Java programming A to G, I have this books, my own book, source code. So here, which chapter? So in my book, I wrote the class name like this: J Java 14 and number 1. Maybe I can open it here. So chapter 14 and number 1. This is the code for an exception. Okay, so I am sending you the link of this GitHub project. So please clone it. Okay, so so everybody please clone this project. Okay. Is this in your section? Yes. Okay, so it has all programs. Okay, that means the number. Okay, I can open it here maybe. Chapter 14 and the number 1. Okay, here there is an exception. In this line there is an exception, so this statement will not be executed. But if we handle this exception, like for instance in next program, we have what in another program, like 4. Yes. So this program we have handled this exception within try block, then this program will be, this statement will be executed, and this statement will be executed. Okay, so what is the reason? Unresolved component. What is this? Project. We need to clean it. Okay, please now. Sometimes I make changes in my program. Line number 6. What is that called? Line number public static void string args. What is that called? String cannot be resolved to a type. I don't know what is happening here. I need to see. Okay, there is another example. Okay, so you see that for an integer type variable, we have assigned this value. Maybe this is the boundary value, all of the values in the boundary position. Then at some point, if you add some more values, with this this variable, right? So that then at this point it will pass its range, right? It will pass its range. So in that case, what do we think? That if you print it without handling the exception, then it will give you garbage value, like for instance these or something, whatever it finds in that memory location. But there is a way that if you checked that value, then try to run this exception. Okay, it will give you overflow exception error. So try to run this. Okay. Okay, and then maybe in my replit I do have some. So almost same thing in Java and C# exception handling, but there, at this point you should know that how to change one program from Java to C#. I don't have it. Exception. I don't have an exception handling program, but maybe I can write it. Okay, shortcut. Maybe I have to cover file operation today. At least let us start file operation today. slides. So has anyone any question about exception handling? You will get a test question about exception handling, okay? We are almost at the end of the semester. So okay, so what do you want, to come to face or join in online? Huh? Okay, this week only. So after the time change, I don't feel secure at night time. I don't know. So let us join after when time changes, like from next week we will join. Let us join 2 more weeks we will have, right? When the break? Yeah, after the Thanksgiving break, there is no face-to-face class, right? Yes, it's obviously everything online. So my another section, this at noon 3:30. This afternoon I came. Nobody was here. I was alone. So okay. So we have like, what is that? Okay. We have 3 or 4 more new topics. So very few. Okay. Okay, file IO operation. File I means input and O means output. File input output operation. Everybody is, I think this should be an excited topic for you. At least so far the program we tested, all of this program will save. Okay, this program has, it's not a program error. The error is coming from my what is the way to clean this project? Okay. So far we discussed the program that those programs do not save the output in data file. Those that output, those are shown in the console. Okay, but sometime we need to save the output or action or result of our operation in data file. Okay, in order to do that, we need to do file input output operation. Usually file input output operations are related to input and output operations. So you will see in the book, most of the books, they have input and output statement more in detail, close to this or combined with this chapter. Okay. For instance, especially in C++. Okay, so that stream, that input stream and output stream. Streams means a flow. It makes a virtual flow. Whenever you run a program, so for instance, in order to pass data, like in a network or a mobile phone, or like, it needs to have a connection, right? In order to talk with one person to another person, it needs to have a connection. Okay, so no matter how far they live in, right, we have a connection, virtual connection, and then as long as the connection maintains, and then it becomes a stream, like flow. Data goes from one source to another source. Okay, so one of the common input stream is that in system.in in Java and console in C#. So these are used system and .in. This stream is used for as input stream, and output stream is system.out. Okay, this is here to display. And in Java, we also use console for both. Okay, so likely there are files, if in uppercase, this file stream, it creates a stream file for file operation. And for networking, you will learn that later we call socket. At least I know 3 programming languages for networking, Python, Java, and C#. And all 3 languages, they use sockets keyword, sockets class. These are the stream. Okay. So socket stream is used for network, making a network connection between two computers or 2 devices. We are not discussing network here. So, and then we are familiar with system.in and console and system.out. So these are used for input-output operation, used as IO stream. But another stream is object. Okay, so what a stream does, it push and pull data to or from a source to destination. Okay, stream, that means it has some strength. So like we have a flow, current flow. So we live in houses or apartment. Like there is a stream of water. Water comes, right? Water, gas, right? There is a pipeline, there's a pipe, and through the pipeline, there is a pressure inside the pipe, right? And that pressure makes that water comes to our house, right? Even multi-story building, because the source, either source is up on the top, or the source is down, but that has pressure that makes the water to flow going up, right? So same thing, that we use stream that makes pressure, okay, to push or pull data from source to destination. Okay, so in order to do file operation, there are actually a file is opened actually in 3 modes. One is called read mode, write mode, another is called append mode, but it differs language to language. Okay, so this is not exactly same. I can say that in all languages. So read, that means is read mode is used to just to read or to display from a data file, and write mode is used to save something, some text in a file, and append mode is used in a combination of read and write, and then create mode is used to create a new file mainly. Okay, so especially in this module, we want to know how to read and write in a data file, how to read from a data file and how to write from a data file. In order to read from a data file, what we need to do, there are some norms. First of all, you need to open the file, and it needs to be connected with the stream so that data can pass. Data can come from file to our display unit. Then there are multiple ways to read from a data file. One thing that we may read character by character, one character by one character, right? And also we may read word by word. You see that if I want, or we may, how do I do that in? So we may word one word at a time, right? Or we may read character by character, or we may read whole line at a time. Okay, or we may read the entire file at a time, file content. So what we'll do, if it enters, it read one character, it will put that character in a character variable, and then it will get one character, will pass that character. It will get one character and then pass that character. Which one that will help you to do that? The stream. Okay, and if it reads the entire line, then a line is a combination of string, right? Some characters. So we need to have a string variable instead of character variable. So then the entire line will be put in a single string variable, and then it will be sent whole together. Okay, now the another way that if you want to enter for the whole file, that what we'll do, it will go line by line until it goes all the way in. And starting from the beginning, it will make until the end, it will create a single string. It will put that entire string in a single file, data file. But it may happen sometime that my database or data is too large, that is difficult to maintain in a one single string. So there is another way. When you take your data structure and operating system course, then you will learn that how to handle large string in a distributed system. So in practice, there are some layers. Okay, so the layers, that means stream one stream pass data to another stream pass to another stream, and it happens. But this is mainly, it should be the networking system. I don't know why they added this one. Okay. So, but at this time there is a difference between Java and C#. Okay. So here, so a file. This is the file class, and it is the constructor, right? This is used to create a file. Okay. And then we need to have scanner object, and the scanner object will scan from file. You know that scanner, the scanner object is used to scan from a keyboard. When you scan from a keyboard, do you remember that what do we write here? Whenever we scan
System.in.
Yes, system.in, right? Whenever we system.in means input stream. Input stream, that means our keyboard is connected with the input stream. Okay, so here if we want to read from keyboard, then we write system.in Java. And but if you want to get data from a data file, instead of system.in, we will write the file's object name over here. Okay, or sometimes in some programs you will see that they will put the entire code over here, like this code. Sometimes people put entire thing over here, like, but I don't like to do that because it becomes complicated. Why it's not working? You understand? So instead of my file, you can put the entire this thing instead of except the semicolon within here. But that is a complicated. Okay, and then where scan dot has next line. Okay, so there this scanner method has some methods, some scanner class. This scanner class has some methods. One of the methods is the has next line. This method works like a what is that called? Whenever some high rank people like travel from one place to another place, like the president. Okay, so then what happens? There is another force dedicated to him to check his roadway, right, ahead of time, before he goes, his actual car goes there, right? Actually, there is another bunch of cars, they go ahead of time, right? They check that the road is clear, there is no enemy, right? So this method, Islam has next line method, is something like that. What it does, it checks if it goes ahead one step, and it checks whether there is another line. So if my computer program is running this line, it will always go ahead, and it will check if there is one more line after that. So that means so that it does not go to out of boundary. So this that method if has next line. If that means if there is one more line. So then if there is a line, okay, so then what will happen? It will scan that line, the next line method. Okay, the next line method will scan that line. Okay, and then it will get a this will be a, you see that this is a string, so it must be a string, and that string, whenever we get a string, then whatever we want to do. Sometimes, for instance, we are putting all the entire thing, or at least maybe one line in a string. Whenever you get a string, that whatever you want to do. For instance, there are string operation methods. For instance, you may split the string by comma. So whenever it gets a comma, then it makes for each, before each comma, then it makes a single word, another word. And it may print that word on the display unit, or whatever you want to do. You may count how many words are there. Okay, so let me give you another shot. What does this mean? Okay, the first line. Okay, then almost all file operations code needs to be put in a try and catch block. What is the reason? File may not exist, or even the file exists, that may be occupied by another method, right? So in order to ensure that file that it wants to open or use must exist and usable, available. So we put this code in a try block. So these are the code in a try block, and if the file does not happen, then we will give an error message that file does not happen or something like does not exist. And if the file happens, file exists, then we just create a string. So why do we need to get the string? Whatever we value, we will scan from the line. We will put that entire thing in that string. And whenever you get a string, that there are multiple operations, you say that, especially when you take your, there is a course if you want to study computer science, especially. And there is a course you must be taken that is called programming language concept. That you will learn how to develop programming languages. Hopefully, you will be developing your own programming language. So the thousands people are developing their own language, but not everyone becomes successful. Okay, the people, some people like Python, developer of Python, he tried from scratch, and then he spent a lot of time. Then our friends joined there with him, and then ultimately that became a popular language. Okay, so if you take that course, and then you will see that we say call that token. Everything you grab. So this is a token. This is another token. Everything, every character is a token. For every string, we can say you can what is every actually every. This is a line. This is a token. This is another token. This is another token. This is a token. This is everything is a token. Some tokens are single character. Some tokens are called keyword that have multiple characters. So for instance, this way it will tell you how many tokens, that means individual character or words, exist in a file, which is the file is source.csv file. You know, CSV means comma separated file. So then it distinguishes one character by another character by comma. So this is a way. So I like you to practice this program, okay? And one thing is that for C# people, that is sometimes easy or almost same. You can do same thing. So what is this called? So it's called stream reader, C#, and in Java we have file, and in C# we call stream reader. You see that name, that S is in uppercase and R is in uppercase. And then while is a dot not end of stream, if it does not go all the way end. Then we need to read one by one and put in a character array, that means called a string in C++ and C#, and then whatever it is just display, it will just display. So, and in Java we write system.out, and C# we write print.write, right, or print.write line. And but in file operation you will use stream writer. Okay, that is the input operation. And I think I can stop it here for next lecture. So this is for output operation. Output means writing operation. Okay, so writing in a data file. Okay, so there are two things I want to discuss in the next lecture, but I'd like everybody to do some practice. Okay, in your, because in order to fulfill our requirement, we must give a test question from each module. Okay, although it may be difficult, that for instance, we will give, you will have a test question in your test. For instance, to open a file, for instance, a file is given, open a file and to display whatever the file content. Okay, that is that program, that one. So I like you to do some practice, and then you will understand how it does work. Okay, and so whenever you understand how to read from a data file, then I think next time we will discuss how to write in a data file, and also we will see how to do binary files. Binary files means like movie file or image file. Like not all file contains text. A text file or document file contain text, right? There are some other files that called like image file or PDF, right? Or audio or video file. Okay, those are called binary files. Okay, so in order to handle binary files, there is a different way to do that. So maybe we will discuss these two things in our next lecture. Okay, but I like you to please do some practice. Okay, at least the first program, how to read from an existing data file. Okay, and then I have code for this one in my GitHub project here. I think I should give the name as the file name. Chapter 15. Okay, chapter 15. So if you please download this, and then chapter 15, all of these programs are for file operation. All of these programs are file
Chapter
operation.
15, Burger King foot lettuce.
Anyone else tracking? Okay, one more thing, maybe I should make it clear over here. So you see that if you have a data file named test in your C drive, right? For instance, C drive, that means C:\\. And we know that in a string, in order to get one backslash, we need to give one more extra backslash, right? For the backslash, in order to have a backslash, we need to give one more extra backslash. This is why we give two backslashes over here in order to access C drive. Okay, has anyone any question? How many of you are there? 27. Okay, so we will meet in our next lecture here. After that, when time changes, we will meet online. Okay, from November. I think 2 weeks maybe. After that, we will have a break. Well, I think in 3 weeks we will be done, right? Almost. Okay, if you don't have any question, then thank you so much, and you have a good evening.
You know when we, hello?